And welcome my fellow Scout Troopers to the first video of the Scouts Report, and we're going to be focusing on CW's TV series The Outpost. Now, diving into a new TV series with no idea what to expect is often exciting. You're often, in my experience, hoping to connect with the story, much like other shows you've come to enjoy in your past time. The Outpost, however, gives nothing of its plot away in its opening scene, other than we enter what seems to be a festival but later turns out to be an illegal casino with some sort of entertainment. The first line of dialogue in the whole TV series is a little strange, but it comes from an old cranky gambler that yells, "Where's my drink?" And we get cut to the central character of this story, a very stunning woman called Talon, played by Jessica Green, an actress I was not familiar with prior to this show. From the first look of her, she gives the impression that she can really handle herself. She's confident, she's strong, not so much a warrior's look, but someone who knows what they're doing. Her companion-sized boyfriend cautions her on starting this journey before it begins, but Talon's resolve appears absolute.
I've waited a long time to find the men who killed my family. I'm not walking away now.
And begins her first step towards this guy, beginning the whole story of the Outpost really from this point forward. We soon find out that this man is a tattoo artist that created and painted the tattoos of the men that Talon is looking for. Hence, this is her first possible lead to the men who murdered her family, whom it later turns out massacred the whole village at the same time, which you later witness in horrifying detail as people are slaughtered left and right. It's a very gruesome scene. This kind of plot is always intriguing, and such dark deeds are always undertaken by powerful and corrupt individuals, either to spread fear or to eliminate a potential threat. And who doesn't like taking on assholes like that and fight in an attempt to destroy their evil machinations, eh? During Talon's makeshift interrogation, the casino gets raided unsurprisingly, and we get a glimpse of Talon's sword and hand-to-hand fighting skills, which are impressive. Her strength is huge for her size, as she goes toe-to-toe with heavily armed soldiers, twice to 3 or 4 times even her size. Honestly though, I was tempted to turn it off the show here and there and walk away, as I was thinking this is going to be another show where a seemingly normal girl can somehow match and surpass any male opponent while ignoring any physical advantages that her opponents obviously possessed, e.g. size, strength, armour, of which Talon had none in this scene, as you can see. A Mary Sue, as people tend to call a person like this. I then half wondered if the show would explain this away and provide a reason for Talon's ability to tear through trained armoured soldiers. So I decided to press on and find out. Talon and her companion make a getaway with the old man in tow, who vows to trade her the information she seeks if she gets him out of the casino. Honestly, who would have thought gambling could get you killed? After finally getting a chance to catch their breath, Talon demands their names, and she's given the name of the group of men that destroyed her village.
The Bones, they was called. Mercenaries. Mean bunch. Had me put that mark on all 7 of their arms.
And 2 other names, a member of the group, Torin Magmore, and its leader, Tiberian Shek. After giving Talon the names and location of Magmore, he tries to say more, but I don't think he had anything left to give Talon. But we need to get on with the story, so sorry mate, it's time to check out. Talon and her companion-sized boyfriend flee into the grey-skinned territory, which are creatures that seem to resemble horribly aged trolls from Lord of the Rings. Talon and her friend are confronted by one of them, and her companion-sized boyfriend again is killed conveniently, I might add. I mean, he would know and has seen Talon's fighting skills and what she can do. She's clearly the fighter of the two, yet he puts himself between her and the greyskin promptly, and gets mortally wounded for his troubles, cutting the last connection Talon had with the place she once resided in. We never know much about this character, but Talon did seem to have a strong connection with him, and you could see his loss in her eyes. This seamlessly, or more conveniently, allows her to start this new journey fresh, with no strings attached, to pull her back as she strides out into the wilderness with new purpose towards Goldwood Outpost, the place where Magmore now resides. It's not long after this scene that it's revealed Talon is not human, but part of a subspecies of humans called blackbloods that possess pointy black tip ears, and they have sort of an elven look almost, now that I think about it, and most importantly have enhanced human abilities, according to the show's synopsis, which I later looked up on the internet. I feel this explains Talon's strength, and knowing that info, which is not actually made known to you in the show at least right away, and if you're watching it randomly for the first time like myself, you'll have the same thoughts I first had when I was watching those first fighting scenes about her being a Mary Sue and whatnot. But seeing as how there are a subspecies of humans with enhanced abilities, it does allow you to account for Talon's abnormal combat strength and not roll your eyes at it in future scenes. This fight scene we witnessed previously starts to make a bit more sense knowing about the blackbloods, which I also read on the wiki page, which I'll link in the video description below. We soon get a flashback to see Talon's past, to see the day that led up to the massacre that killed her family, and we can see that regular humans who lived near the blackbloods village didn't like them very much. So much so, a young boy tries to kill Talon with an arrow for simply throwing a rock at him after he killed a giant ass-looking deer creature she was admiring. There's obviously a lot of animosity towards the blackblood people who have adopted this pacifist lifestyle in the hope regular humans won't see them as a threat. Unfortunately, their efforts prove for naught. When the blackbloods are being slaughtered and her mother is dying, she passes some sort of blue energy to Talon, who doesn't seem to notice it or understand what her mother actually gave her as she was dying. Her mother then gives her life to help Talon get away briefly, and during Talon's escape from the massacre, a Bones archer corners her in a tomb and fires an arrow to kill her, when Talon, without meaning to, uses the energy her mother gave her, and a monstrous arm reaches out through a portal out of nowhere and catches the arrow he fired in its arm centimeters from Talon's head. The archer is stunned by what he's witnessed, and the arm retreats back into the portal with the arrow still embedded in it, and it's gone. He then reloads, raises his bow to fire her again, finish her off, but then he hesitates, trying to comprehend what he's just seen, and then shifts his aim slightly, lodges another arrow deliberately next to Talon's head, and announces he's killed her. It's a very strange moment. This guy has slaughtered so many people tonight, but spares Talon's life and then leaves. Never tries to track her down after this point and meet with her afterwards. Not an action I'm familiar with in any previous shows I've seen in the past, so it definitely perks my interest and I kept watching from this point. It's unimaginable what it's like to survive a massacre, but Talon goes through the carnage of her village, and the show captures her emotions well in this scene. Confused, angry, hopelessly lost, with her family gone, no idea what to do next, she packs up her stuff, she says goodbye to her mother and brother, and then silently picks up her mother's knife which she used to save her life before she died, and then leaves the village for the last time. She meets a mother and daughter on the road who are kind to her, and not long after it's clear they know that the whole village was destroyed, murdered, massacred, and the husband is fearful for the safety of his own family, understandably, but the mother wants to adopt her, and her husband argues people will know she's not their child because of her black-tipped ears. A clear giveaway, and he's got a point. Overhearing this argument, Talon takes her mother's knife and, like going to her hairdresser's, cuts the black-tipped points off her ears to blend in with humans in plain sight. Now that we're all caught up with Talon's past, her motivation and purpose in the show is now quite clear, and I'm rooting for her success. I would be remiss, however, not to point out the jarring shot here of Talon's ears that have pink-red scars where she cut the black tips off her ears. Given she's a blackblood, you'd think she'd have grey or light black kind of scars, not really red and pink which are human blood. But I'm being picky, so let's move on. We get a decent tour of Talon's world that she lives in, known only to us, however, as the Realm. Unfortunately, aside from the areas shown in the show thus far, which Season 4 has just started, or Season 3B, as I think CW is officially calling it, we still don't know the name of the Realm, and I've actually tried to find it. I still don't know what it is. But as your show is based on one fixed spot in the entire world, I guess the idea is the more you keep the rest of the world obscure, the easier it is to focus on certain points in the world and not worry about the rest. And then we finally arrive at the Outpost. And the moment is awesome. The music is fitting, and it is a memorable scene that was shot well and has really carried with me throughout the show to this date. Now, the Outpost is situated as the last civilized post of the realm, and beyond it lies known and other ancient dangers that motivates people never to go any further because they simply don't often come back if they try to go further beyond the Outpost. Being on the border, the Outpost is succumbed to attacks from numerous terrors that come from beyond the Outpost, like grey-skinned hordes, and recently, as Talon finds out, Plaguelings. A relatively new threat to the realm we find out later. They have been ravaging the Outpost and nearby border villages. Plaguelings are terrifying and similar to zombies in a way, aside from three key features. The first is the only way to kill them is to stab the worm-like creature residing in the mouths of the infected, and this thing looks like a mini willowworm from Lord of the Rings. It seems to act as both the heart and brain of the affected host, as Talon stabs affected people in the head and the heart with no effect, they don't die. 2. Getting infected doesn't mean you're guaranteed to turn into a Plagueling, whereas if you're bitten by a zombie in most other shows, eventually you turn into a zombie. And 3, they communicate with each other through a shrieking whistle sound that pierces your skull, which is similar to, I suppose, World War Z in a way. The show quickly explains how Plaguelings infect others by stabbing their victims with the needle tips at the ends of the mouthworm creatures, leaving inside the mouths of the infected. Just as Talon, it seems, is about to get infected, we get introduced to another main character, Garrett Spears, played by Jake Stormerin. Again, a fresh cast member I'm not familiar with, and kills the infected Plaguelings by shooting them in the mouths, which he explains is the only way to kill them. Which I assume is returning from a patrol to the outpost, and hears Talon struggle during the Plagueling screeching and comes to intervene or check it out. Plaguelings only scream, it seems, when they're attacking and calling for support to take down their prey. They share a brief staring moment, but you get the idea of a romantic relationship immediately down the line. After snapping out of this moment, however, and a brief introduction, they ride for Goldwood Outpost to get behind the walls, as nightfall is when the Plaguelings come out to hunt. Kinda makes Garrett and his mates look like idiots for still being outside the walls at night time, but moving on from that. Garrett seems to be the perfect ideal soldier, in the sense that he became one to protect people, not serve the wills of those in power. He's eager to learn about Talon's purpose here, and seems to have heard every story in the book from all people of the realm that have come here to the outpost previously. He even says if you're going to make it up, at least make it interesting. And the actors play off really well here with each other during their encounter. Once we're inside, we meet Gate Marshal Withers, played by Andrew Howard, an experienced law-hardened individual who wields the law with an iron fist. Aside from another character we meet later on, he's the only other cast member that I have seen before in other shows previously, as a matter of fact. He's Garrett's father, as it so happens, and their relationship is cold as ice. It's obvious they have disdain for each other for their own personal reasons, but they keep their first on-screen interaction semi-professional. Withers, it seems, treats Talon like anyone else. You play by the rules and you'll be a fly on the wall, but cross him, you'll get smashed against that very same wall. It's actually a fair proposal in my opinion. Do whatever you want as long as you're here, obey the law, but break it and I will break you, basically. Talon isn't fazed by this, it's just imminent danger itself seems to be the only thing that breaks her face, which is pretty much stone all the way through any conversation, and she never gives too much away. I guess when you've seen so much death, being threatened by it seems boring to such an individual. As Garrett and Talon leave the Marshal, we get a brief history lesson of the outpost, not that much but a little, and we learn that it's been undermanned as the outside threat from these creatures called the Greyskins, who we met briefly in the first few scenes of the episode, which is having attacked the outpost in like 11 seasons, which could be roughly 3 years if there's 4 seasons to a year. They had an army manning the outpost at the time, but now most of the army is being sent south to fight some other war. We don't get much information about this war, and I'm kind of curious to see what would warrant the redeployment of our army to the south if they weren't fighting another kingdom.
Well, it's a brutal war.
The show really teases a lot of things to you to get you more interested in the world, but what makes it a bit frustrating is they don't tell you too much about it. They drip feed pieces to you as the show goes on, which does sort of suck you in, so I guess it works to that effect. But I am curious to see what monsters they were sent down there to fight, because Garrett does reference some sort of monster that these guys were fighting, and that he'd seen his own friends be butchered and killed by. I wonder if it's Greyskins or not. I guess we'll find out if the show gets another 2 seasons or more. Now the show's HQ is called the Nightshade, a rundown looking bar and hotel, and the only one at the outpost. It's actually a great place to meet up, and away from unwanted eyes and ears. Now it's in the Nightshade that we meet the last of the show's main characters, Gwen and Janzo. Janzo is like Batman's Alfred of the show, a medieval version of a tech support guy. He's a brewer and also a quirky individual. He introduces himself to Talon and gets shut down, as so many of us have when we rack up the courage to ask a girl out. He soon becomes an invaluable fixture of the show, but that's for the next video. Seriously though, this guy's a gifted profiler. He sizes up Talon and makes her a drink based on her physical appearance and features, and gets almost every detail about her spot on.
Licking your lips, so I started with my winter ale for quenching thirst. Now your shoulders are a little bit hunched, aren't they? It's because you're tired, aren't you? Your jaw's slightly clenched. It's because you're on a mission, aren't you?
Except, of course, what her mission is at the outpost. Now that's a skill that I would like to have dialed in. It's then that we see an Aragorn-like individual staring at Talon the moment she sets foot in the Nightshade. But unlike the hobbits, she doesn't seem to care when Janzo tells her that he's been staring at her all night. Talon seems like a razor-focused individual that only cares about the task at hand. All secondary concerns are irrelevant to her, unless they affect the success of her primary mission. Now that feature about her, I've got to say, really helps the story flow. There's barely a dull moment that springs up. All the scenes so far seem connected and add to each other, and there's no time wasted. While drinking her custom-made drink, seriously Genzo, make me one of those. The dreaded Magmore shows up, and Talon is struggling, it seems, not to get off her stool to try and kill him. This is why I conclude Talon is not a Mary Sue. I think this part of the episode proves this well. She pays Genzo to keep drinks coming to him, to get him drunk, to dull his senses, and slow his motor skills, to improve her odds in the confrontation she plans to initiate. She plainly admits that she can't take him on in a fair fight, and every character that admits their shortcomings like that gets more respect in my eye. While she plans her trap, Gwen shows up and at first wants to hide from Magmore in Talon's room. Gwen comes off as immature, naive, and doesn't like being told what to do.
Dare you?
She's a person who's used to giving orders clearly and not take them. In her first conversation with Talon, she makes demands to hide with her, does not want to be alone with the enemy near, and wants an escort home, which really irritates Talon to no end. But in the end she agrees to do it, if only to get rid of her, and it buys more time for Magmore to drink more, dulling his senses further. Which is why I think she does this for Gwen. Talon clearly stated to Gwen that she would take care of Magmore, i.e. kill him. But still Gwen wants to leave the safe hiding spot of Talon's room. At first I questioned this scene, mainly because we know that if Talon succeeds it will solve Gwen's problems. But it begins to make sense the more irrational Gwen appears. A person like this is a danger to themselves and others, as the choices they make are not well thought through and can jeopardize the best laid plans by accident. I can only guess Talon wants to be 100% focused on the confrontation with Magmore, and the fewer equations in this fight, the better it will be for her. Neither Talon or Gwen admit why they know Magmore, because well, who trusts each other after just meeting? Trust and respect are not given but earned, another principle that the show displays that I really like about it. So after dropping her off and Gwen and Garrett sharing a brief kiss, teasing a glaringly obvious rapidly forming love triangle, a few secrets are then teased between Talon and Garrett, but again are not answered mainly because no one trusts each other yet. Finally, Talon returns to the Nightshade and waits for Magmore's full bladder to bring him outside when she confronts him in the alley. He teases her about the reason he killed her people and reveals to her that another member lives at the outpost called the Wolf. Now Talon's clearly got faith that her plan will work, but when Talon and Magmore engage, even drunk he's got Talon on the ropes. Talon, it seems, is not used to fighting a well-trained, seasoned opponent, and it appears she begins to fight wildly and desperately the more the fight turns in Magmore's favour. She tries to hurt Magmore any way she can. Clearly she underestimated her opponent, and during the scuffle both lunge at each other and stab each other in the gut with their swords. But Talon gets pinned against the wall, with the blade in her. Magmore retracts the sword that Talon stabbed him with, and stabs Talon again. I don't know why he didn't go for the heart, the head, but he went for the gut. I guess maybe because he was dying, he was losing strength fast, who knows. But it is a TV show after all. The writers really want you to assume that she's really hard to kill because of her black blood, but it didn't save her people from the massacre in the village. I mean, those guys seem to die pretty easily with arrows, axes. The only person that really comes to mind that makes a black blood hard to kill is her mother. Her mother copped an arrow to the back, but she got up and slashed Magmore across the ankles before he could kill Talon. So, you know, I guess the magical being inside her mum and now Talon makes that person a bit more resilient in terms of being able to survive certain wounds. Thankfully though, we don't see the writers relying too much on Talon's black blood to get her out of every sticky situation, no pun intended here of course. Before the episode concludes, an old man appears and pulls the blades out of Talon and carries her away. This man to me is clearly the Wolf, and he's not fazed by the sight of black blood and was probably watching the fight the whole time. To keep the story moving forward at a steady pace however, Magmore writes in his own blood, "Tell Dread one remains." Dread is the creepy head guy that you see at the village just before the massacre and after the massacre, and he's the one that gave the order and paid the Bones to kill everyone in the village. Now this sets up a nice cliffhanger for episode 2, as all the bad guys will be scrambling to converge on the outpost and to eliminate the last blackblood you'd have to assume. I hope you guys enjoyed this introduction to the outpost and hope you will return as we analyse episode 2 and discuss the details revealed within. This is Micka from the SOE Report signing off. Catch you guys in the next video.